welcome back for another video. My name is Josh Kasich, and today is my Samurai X Rurouni Kenshin review. Now, Samurai X is actually the American or the English dub version of the name of the show. But when you're actually watching the show is actually called Rurouni Kenshin because that is that's the Japanese name for the show. So keep that in mind. Now, the show takes place 10 years after the Meiji government took over Japan. Before they took over, there was a war between the original government, and then the Meiji and the imperialists trying to take over. So now our main character we get to introduce at the beginning. He was actually part of the imperialists and the Meiji, but he gets attacked by another main character in Kaoru. Yeah, I think Kaoru. I think it's Kaoru. Oh, whatever. But she attacks Kenshin thinking he was Battousai the manslayer. But he's just a wanderer now because he's against hurting people. And he still carries a sword, even though that was actually outlawed by the Meiji. But his sword is actually reverse blade. And what it means by reverse blade, it still looks like a normal katana, where it kind of curves and stuff. But the sharp part on that little curve, though, is usually where you have the sharp in the front end, it's not in the front; it's actually in the back. So when he attacks, it can severely hurt someone, but supposedly does not kill. Although it's a sword, so it still technically should kill. But whatever. It's just just for the context of the show. But there was this person who was used to be. Now his style of Kenshin style is the Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu. That's his sword style. But Kaoru's sword style, and doesn't even use a sword, it's more of a wooden weapon, is called the the Kenshin style. There we go. And so, but there was this person going around saying that he was the legendary Battousai the manslayer, using the Kenshin style, and he's hurting people or attacking people. So because he's doing that, people were quitting her dojo that used to be run by her father, but now is run by her because he passed away. And so it's hurting her because now she's not getting money and stuff like that. But with the help of Kenshin, who started to stay with Kaoru in the dojo living, he goes on to help her find this guy and even defeats him. Now, originally this guy was actually a student of Kaoru's father, but he started hurting people in the dojo, and so he was forced out of the dojo, but he wasn't willing to leave, and so he duels her father, and her father renders this dude's ability to fight with or hold or fight with a sword in his right hand. So over these years, this guy's been learning how to fight with his left hand, but Kenshin actually defeats him and takes out the guy's left hand, or the ability and stuff like that. So very important. And then he finally, instead of Kenshin going back to wandering, he still stays at the dojo. We also get to introduce that they live in Tokyo, and there's this doctor that's really well known around these parks that we get introduced to. That he's an elderly guy, but he always brings his little two granddaughters that he's raising because their parents are dead apparently, and they go they visit her and stuff, and they even call Kenshin Uncle Kenshin or so. So yeah, or no, not Uncle Kenshin, Uncle Kenny. They call him, which kind of reminds me of Bleach, because there was a character name that there was a character that calls another character Kenny, and it's that the girl calls this guy Kenny, and she has this very high kind of childish voice that's kind of like these girls. So and the girl in Bleach is small too. I would definitely taller than these two girls, but and older, I'm pretty sure, but still kind of reminds me of that. But yeah, but that's besides the point. Now eventually we get to learn about we get introduced to Yakiko. Yakiko. He is a young brat who has a brat personality. Who his parents are dead. So he's an orphan, but he was raised by these bad dudes. Kaoru and Kenshin actually rescued him from these people, and he started living at the dojo and even became a student of Kaoru, even though he thinks he doesn't really like her, and even calls her ugly. So, which is kind of a gag throughout the show, but he eventually does become a better person. But yeah, then the next character kind of joining the group eventually is Sanosuke Sagara. He was actually part of a group that was part of the Imperialists and the Meiji, but unfortunately, the Meiji and the fundamentalists had this idea to sacrifice a group, and I can't remember the reason behind that offhand. But unfortunately, they picked his group. Now he was at a young age, and he actually looked up to the leader of this group. But they were all slaughtered, but him. He actually lived. And there was actually another person that about his age that they were kind of rivals in the group also lived. But we don't introduce him until, like, I think, I wouldn't say, probably a little bit before the middle of the series. But he's not really that much of an important character. But he basically, Sagara now is a fighter for hire. And he has this signature coat that says bad in Japanese on the back for no really good reason. But yeah, so he gets that guy from earlier, that Kenshin Bao, who was pretending to be Battousai, hires Sanosuke to battle Kenshin, and even turns he still has a grudge for Sanosuke still has a grudge for Imperial, so he really wants to battle Kenshin, but Kenshin defeats him and teaches him to be a better person, or changes him, or like teaches a lesson to him that allows him to change his views of the government and stuff like that. Although when his friend kind of came back, or slash rival, he kind of almost changed him again, but Kenshin was able to get through to him again, and so everything works out. But he joins the group, and pretty much everything. Now his weapon was actually destroyed by Kenshin, which was like a big weapon. So now he really uses his fists to battle and stuff like that. Kind of his main trope throughout the rest of the show is punching. And he even gets taught by this dude that actually turns out to be part of the villain group for a major arc, which I'll get to later. But and so to the point where he can actually pretty much destroy anything with a punch. And one punch man vibes right there. But no, it doesn't really. He doesn't really defeat everyone in one punch, but he could definitely destroy things in one punch. So. But that's besides the point. Another character we get introduced to is Megumi. Now she is a doctor that was taught by another doctor that worked for this bad dude who was forcing him to make drugs, and unfortunately he died, and so now she was forced to do drugs for this dude, but she was actually able to escape and finds Kenshin and all of them, and they become friends and stuff, and they go fight this dude. Now working for this dude is a group called the Obanwanman group, but not the entire Obanwan group. This is kind of a group of people within the Obanwangan group actually led by the leader of the Obanwanman group, that because he was made leader but then left. And unfortunately, during this arc, all of them but the leader, his name is Yoshi, were murdered. But Megumi was actually able to be free and actually joins that doctor as like kind of assistant slash equal, I guess, in a way, doctor to with that other doctor I mentioned earlier, and most of the time she's just helping out the group of these heroes. Now we eventually get to the major arc, where I would say the major arc of the series. You have many minor arcs that afterwards that I may or may not be in the manga, and then they took on an entire. They didn't even animate an entire important arc that's in the manga that actually did make it into the real live action movie. So, but that's besides the point. But let's get to the main point here. During this arc, obviously, basically the Meiji, who are the police, also were in not just the police but also Saito, a former kind of like he was against Kenshin. They had this entire battle, but now he's working for the Meiji and is a cop or whatever. But him and Kenshin were telling Kenshin that essentially you have this guy named Shishio, who is the former manslayer before Himura, that was so powerful and dangerous that he was burned alive by his allies, but he was actually able to live. But he's severely burnt, looks like a mummy walking around, and he basically apparently doesn't have any what's it called, sweat glands anymore. So he's basically, he could pretty much die like any time because his body can't regulate his heat. So he's like really hot, or like he's like his body is like really high, and like he even can burn people with his hands. That's just how bad it is. I don't even know how he's living. But besides the point, and he has this group of people, and they want to destroy the new government, or the Meiji government. And Himura leaves the group because he didn't want to put them in danger, and he goes off to battle Shishio because he doesn't want innocent people hurt, because that's his main thing. And that's pretty much throughout the show. Before this arc is always, every time he battles, always to protect the innocent people and his friends and stuff like that. So that's the only time he really does battle. And that's why he goes in this, and he even goes back to his master, because he had a master who taught him, but he left to fight in the war before learning everything. And even so, Kyoto is actually a major battle sequence during that war, and where Kenshin was a part of. So this has bittersweet memories and stuff like that. And on this journey, now he really makes his friends upset, even Kaoru, because Kaoru fell in love with him, obviously. And they actually go and try to follow him after he left. But essentially, the important leader in the Meiji government was actually killed by one of the members of Shishio's group. But now, on the way, Kenshin actually meets a girl named Tsubame, who was actually part of the Obanwanman group. Actually, she was the daughter of the original leader of the Obanwanman group, and was raised by Aoshi, and she actually is in love with him. But Aoshi actually joins Shishio, but after a battle between Kenshin and him, he actually he is redeemed and becomes a good guy, and joins the Obanwanman group after this arc. But obviously, this whole point is eventually the group and Kenshin defeating the Obanwanman group, not the Shishio and his group of people and stuff like that. So, and that's kind of the main point there, and that's pretty much the rest of the show is just arcs. So there was an arc about Christianity, dealing with kind of a cult version of Christianity, because their like ideals are not really fit within the Christian ideals, and they want to get revenge against Japan because years ago, Japan murdered like several Christians, kind of a way of you would like executing them, like out man's like what I would say. What's the word I'm looking for? I forgot the word, but it's pretty genocide. Yeah, Christian genocide. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, so that's kind of really bad, but not really. It's kind of a minor arc. I think that is actually in the manga. But then the last kind of arc was dealing with two groups of people. Well, basically in the past Japan, these two groups are trying to take over Japan, and the Win group, who are more, I think, nice or like good people, actually defeat these bad part of the group, and they go off to China. The bad group goes off to China, and now after all these years, these bad group of people come to try to take over Japan again. And but with the help of Kenshin and the gang, they were able to, and the one surviving member of the good group were able to defeat them. And then the last episode is kind of just a little episode for Kenshin and Kaoru, although they never really admit that they love each other or kiss in that episode. But yeah, that's kind of where it ends. Unfortunately, I would have liked more of the romance. Now, there's actually an OVA called Reflection that actually ends the series, but let's not talk about that because, well, let's just say it's horribly written and it has nothing to do with the manga. It's just really bad. Although we do get to see Kenshin and Kaoru married and have a son, but that's the only really thing good about those two episodes. Really just ignore them. I mean, like, ignore those two episodes, okay? And then the one arc that didn't make it in was actually dealing with this brother-in-law of Kenshin, because Kenshin actually did have a wife, but before the show there was an accident, and unfortunately Kenshin accidentally killed his wife and during a battle sequence, and well, his brother-in-law obviously will be upset with that, considering he's the brother of his, the girl that he just accidentally murdered. So, but yeah, other than that, that did make it into like the movies though. So I'm really hoping for a reboot of this show though, because although I really love the characters and the writing of this original show, it's just because they left out the arc and because of that horrible ending, I just want a reboot of the show so it can have a proper ending, a proper romance between Kenshin and Himura. Not, did I just say Kenshin and Himura? Why did I say Kenshin and Kaoru? But yeah, that's pretty much everything about the show, guys. I do recommend the show. It's really, I think it's really good and cool and everything about it. The story, I like the story. I like the characters. I think they all have interesting personalities that really just work for the show. And yeah, so. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like. If you're new, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you're notified for next upload. My YouTube channel, website link, my Twitter, my Snapchat, and Instagram are all in the description as always. And thank you. Goodbye.